everyone, it's Vash. I'm here with who I'm informed is iragulasuperbia, who I'm just going to call Ira from now on. Um, and again, sorry about fucking your name up on that first post.
All good. It's not unusual.
Not uncommon.
I got my full name. I got my real name fucked up all the time, so I'm used to it at this
Oh,
point.
yeah. So we were talking a little bit before this, and you said that you found the website by via looking at a meme.
Yeah, yeah, way
How did
back, almost like I think 5 years ago, maybe longer. I forget how long I've been on FJ.
Yeah, it's easy to forget. I've been on since 2011, it turns out.
2016. So 7 years at this point. Well, almost seven.
Jeez. So I was I feel like an idiot because as someone who was trying to design a tabletop and someone who plays so much tabletop, I was not informed of what Monster Monday was. Could you sort of enlighten that to anyone who might be
Yeah,
listening who doesn't know what that is?
yeah, certainly. So I mainly hang out in the Dungeons and Dragons and other sort of like tabletop RPG channels of funny junk. And every Monday, uh, well, I'm on hiatus this month, and I have taken breaks before, but I try to every Monday post a monster that I've designed. I design monsters for Pathfinder First Edition and Pathfinder Second Edition, and then I have a dear friend who designs them, who converts them to D&D Fifth Edition. And so we post all the monsters on there. If it's a monster under monster, I usually try to include some sort of like item along with it based on the monster, based off its gear and game. And yeah, I give like some lore on the monster. If it's like one of my original ones, and if it's one of the others, I try to extrapolate from the lore that I do know about it. Um, I do also, while not, I don't put it under like the Monster Monday banner. I also do what I call full build Fridays. And so for that, I take a character from a media or something like that, from a game, from a show, from a comic, and I build them as close as I can get in Pathfinder Second Edition as a character, level 1 through 20.
How long does that process usually take? Like if you find something from mythology that you're interested in adding?
For a monster or for a character build?
For a monster.
For a monster, I don't know. I've gotten pretty quick at it. Second edition is definitely faster than first edition when it comes to building stuff in Pathfinder, because numbers are much more involved in first edition. They're all like hinged upon each other. And so usually, if I find a monster, I'll do like with work and everything. I'll do like a day for research, and then I will like get the basics for the monster, just like basic bonuses, basic attacks, setup, and stuff like that. And then I'll usually finish it up the next day with like any special abilities, things of that nature that it should have. If I don't have work, I can knock out a monster both for first and second edition in about a day. Uh, I mean, if I don't get distracted by other stuff.
Yeah, that's entirely understandable. Um, so since you're kind of known as the guy about monsters in Pathfinder,
hmm
uh, how did you start with tabletops? Like, what was your first, and how did you start?
All right, my first was D&D first edition, like the original D&D. I was 10 years old. I had no idea what was going on. But my dad was like, "Hey, this is a game where you get to make a character and you get to play that character and you can do whatever you want in the game." And so he taught me how to play. He got me into it. And so I remember my very first character, and he had to do some work for this one. It wasn't something he could set up easily. But I really wanted to play a lizard folk druid because I've always loved animals, and so druids are right up my alley. Um, and I can't even remember what we did, but I was hooked from there. Uh, we didn't really do much first edition anymore. Once he saw that I was into it, we had a local gaming store that was willing to take a 10, 11-year-old kid into their table along with my dad, and so we mostly played D&D 3.5 from there. And I traditionally played, starting in 3.5, I would always play generally a barbarian or a wizard. The two extremes there.
Yeah, either a spell chunker or a beat 'em up.
Yep. And of course, all my barbarians were named Thok. They were named after the sound of their axe hitting somebody's head,
Yeah,
naturally.
but what about things like grung and bonk?
Well, I didn't use the weapons that made those sounds.
Yeah, I my because I love the role playing aspect of it
Hmm.
more so than whenever I join a tabletop. I hope that we're able to get into character and have fun in scenes and stuff. Um, but as a math nerd, I kind of also really love the combat, especially
Oh
trying to
yeah,
design combat. I have a blast with it.
yeah. I understand that. I am big into both.
I do a lot of because I did a lot of theater as a kid. So I do a lot of character work about designing characters because I'm an idiot and I love to get like autistically like stuck on in character.
Hmm.
And the first character that we ever had that died because I started in second edition. Um, his name was Titsy
I dig
because
it.
yeah, he was 1 foot tall and he was a winged goblin that only had wings because he got cursed. And he was a wizard. But he was useless in combat because basically every spell that I took was for thievery or being a dick in social settings.
Nice.
Um, I
Classic.
I played him for a year. I got so burnt out of being Titsy because they hoisted me up as like a mascot.
Right.
Um, I was like, I want to be like an edgy rogue now because I'm tired of being Titsy. And I went to the DM of that second edition game and I was like, hey, can we like write Titsy out or whatever, like whatever we got to do? And he's like, well, if you want your character to leave, I want your character to die because I feel like story wise, it would do a massive blow to the party,
Okay.
like socially. And I was like, that's a cool story, beat because they really did. They got together and they were like, yeah, Titsy, the fucking gremlin, goblin little bastard of our party. Um, so secretly behind my group's back, me and my DM made a pact that he was going to die that next session, and I had a character ready to go. And because I couldn't use the wings before,
Hmm.
I was like, guys, before we go up to the wizard's tower, I think I think I've been working on flying enough that I can try and fly up there and peep what's happening, you know? And they were like, yeah, sure. So he flew up there, very like mid-level, right?
Hmm.
And the wizard shot him with chain lightning and he
Okay.
fell from the wizard tower height onto stone and none of them could catch me.
Wow. That
Um
is
my
that is a way to
party
go.
was absolutely devastated. They like got up and they were getting ready to like, no, we can't. How the fuck? What the fuck? And my DM at the time was like, all right, start working on your new character, start building them. And we had to go like they grabbed me. My party grabbed me because none of them had ever had a character die, and they walked me out of the room from the DM, and they were like, "Do you want us to talk to him? Do you want us to fucking? Do we need to do something about this?"
Oh no! Wow.
And I was like, "No, no, it's fine, it's fine. I did something, and it backfired. It's fine." And then I made the sneak thief, and it got marginally worse, like review bombed from basically my party, who was like, "Where's the funny character? I don't want to play the edgy rogue."
Oh, ow, that sucks. I actually I recently had to introduce a new character in a campaign. Well, I didn't have to, but I wanted to. And fortunately, they seem to like him.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah. But no, I actually. Uh, so I have a party and a campaign I run, and we have gone through 5 levels of like gameplay together. I haven't been able to kill a single one of them. I've had players, I've had their characters leave, and then they'll bring in new characters because they want to do new things. I was like, and so I was eventually like, you know what, I want to run like an actual, because this is a homebrew game. I was like, I want to run an actual Paizo published adventure. So let's do this one that's about circuses and dinosaurs. And I invited a lot of the guys from that group over to that game. One of the guys, for like the first time I think ever, he got a art commissioned for his character. He had that art for all of 2 sessions before I landed a crit in the face and killed the character due to major damage rules.
Oh no.
So I did try to work with him because at the time, Paizo had released Book of the Dead, which included like undead archetypes. So hey, you could play as a zombie, you could play as a ghoul, you could play as a ghost. So I did try to work with him to see like if he wanted to do that with his character. I was completely willing to do so that way he could, keep the art that he had actually like paid for and stuff. He's just like, no, I'll let them lie dead. Like, well, geez, now I almost feel bad. However, obviously I can't show that in game, so whenever they bring up the character, I pretend not to know who they're talking about.
What character?
Yeah, who's that? Are you guys talking about?
That's funny. So I
But yeah.
so this is something that has I have signatures that I've put in my adventures.
Hmm.
Like if you're playing one of my games, there's going to be um you're going to eventually, it could be 30 sessions in, but you will see a cabin with a lake behind it that has a dock going onto that lake, and there's something going on there. Like the people who've been playing with me since I was like 14 or younger, they see it and they're like, "We need to investigate that." And I was like, "Why would your character investigate that? Explain
Right.
to me why."
No, I actually have something a little similar. In my games, I have a family of half orcs. They're all named after like uh, a part of like the body.
Yeah,
And so like the group has met. Let me bring up the list real quick because I think there's some good ones personally. Yeah. So the first one they met was Roderick the Eye, who is a half orc that's missing an eye. Um, and then they were asked to go check on his sister, Lizzie the Bone, because she likes collecting bones. She's also just sometimes known as Lizzie Bones.
yeah,
Uh, from there, they traveled elsewhere and encountered the eldest brother of the family, Bloody Jack, so named because he's often covered in the blood of his enemies.
yeah.
And he was looking for his little sister, Jenny the Tooth, so named because she's taken enough blows to the face she only has one tooth remaining. But I try to work each of them into like a campaign or like a campaign chapter Um,
Yeah.
and so I do have one guy who's like, I gotta keep playing in your campaigns because I want to find and meet the whole family.
Yeah.
So that's a nice feeling.
I have a guy. T, if you ever hear this podcast, you're gonna get called out for this. Um, he almost always wants to play somebody who can enchant things because a lot of systems have adopted that sort of idea that magical items don't break
Okay.
or like rot or anything. Um, and he keeps trying to bring various phalluses from things that he's killed and wants them enchanted. And
Oh no.
I have yet to give him an who's willing to enchant one for him. And it's just weird, T. I'm just saying that you add that to every character, regardless of who they are. Like, I
Now,
think this might be a you thing.
yeah, I had a character that didn't collect phalluses, but he would take a trophy from every battle, and his plan was to eventually incorporate it into like a golem of some sort. But typically didn't grab the phallus. He
Yeah,
didn't take the monster's dick.
yeah.
His plan was not to make a dildo golem.
He no, I think he wanted it as a weapon, basically using it like a club, which that shit killed me. But he also same guy argued with me, didn't argue with me, but argued his point long enough that I let him get away with it because they were under leveled and they had snuck up on a dragon that they knew that they couldn't like win against.
Hmm.
So he argued that he should be able to stealthily um, stick an immovable rod in its ass. And he argued with, he's like, no, they have to have a butthole. And I was like, I don't, why would you want? And his logic was that if he did that and made it unmovable, then the dragon wouldn't be able to fly to get to them when they tried to escape. And there's only so much like arguing you can do with a player when they come up with a brilliantly stupid idea.
Right, right, of course.
So I was like, all right, well, you're going to have to make some sleight of hand rolls to make this shit happen because I can't figure out anything else to make you roll for this. And dude, like, rolled like a 19 on his fucking base roll with all of his bonuses. I don't know what it came out to, like a 26 or something. And I was just like, God fucking damn.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, it's you gotta be careful with like, all right, if you roll high enough, because whenever you say that, they always do.
Oh, yes. I had the same, and this is another friend, same friend group. Um, I gave one guy the staff that I was like, all right, it works like a portal gun, basically,
Okay.
but it's line of sight. So if you can see it, you can cast a portal there. And I was like, nothing bad will come of this. And then one guy who had the staff, whose character was a little unhinged, was like, well, what if I just cast a portal in front of the big bad, and then I stare at the sun for a second and cast a portal directly onto the sun? And then, like, he wanted to talk to me about the fact that it was line of sight and that you can technically, for a second, look at the sun.
Hmm.
And I was like, yeah, sure, but here's the thing: that is a hydrogen bomb. That is an active hydrogen bomb that you are opening into the atmosphere. So know that you're not going to sneak away from that damage if you are like anywhere in the vicinity.
Right.
Um, and then he did it. Everyone in the party almost died. because it only lasts until the guy who cast it closes his eyes. And because he did it within his own vicinity, it was just like a second.
Hmm.
But it did like hundreds and hundreds of points of damage. And like, if they weren't OP as fuck in that game, then they would have died. And
Wow.
then one of my players, the one that I'm about to shit talk, and he knows it, uh, got so mad at me because he tried to argue that his dexterity was so good he should have been able to avoid it. And I was like, how? Explain to me how, because I'm sure there was some gymnast in Nagasaki who was unable to, like, he couldn't do a sick enough backflip to get away from a nuclear bomb, and this is a hydrogen bomb. You
Yeah.
understand that, right?
That
So,
does that does vaguely remind me. I played a system back in the days called Heroes Unlimited, and it was a superhero RPG. And I think the highest damage I ever saw in it was if you got ran over by a train, and it was like 100d6.
yeah,
But like bringing the sun, I mean, I don't think you even have to roll for damage at that point. I just think it deals like hundreds everywhere.
one guy, yeah, it's so much damage. But the guy who did it only did it because he had a legendary item that would resurrect him when he died. So
Ah.
his character knew that he'd be fine.
Hmm.
So he'd cast it, get turned into an ash pile, but then his eyes would be closed, turn off the portal, and then he'd be resurrected. And he's like, what happens to them really isn't my problem. I was like, fuck, he has been saying that shit for a while. But so I did put a few posts about questions that um Funny Junk Asters had,
Sure.
and I get the same question every time. So Bean wants to know if you think that traps are good.
Yeah. Easy. That is a yes.
Every time.
Yep. If it's a trap, it's a trap because it is a dude that has feminine features, and that's, I mean, they still identify as a dude, so that means it's gay.
Yeah. See, everyone has that opinion, but like I don't know why they keep asking me this. I got a DM question here.
Hmm.
Um, is it sock shoe sock shoe?
Uh, my socks are in a completely different room from my shoes, and I only put my shoes on when I'm going out the door. So it's sock, shoe.
You are the first and only person to answer it that way.
Yeah, I don't know. It's I my socks are upstairs, my shoes are downstairs. I put my socks on before I go downstairs.
Yeah. Vortex Rain wants to know, do you like
Mhm.
potatoes, and how so if you do?
Ooh, I do like potatoes. I like them in pretty much any form. Uh, but I think my favorite is what is it? I think it's scalloped potatoes with cheese. I
Yeah,
think scallops like when they're sliced real thin.
man, scalloped potatoes are awesome.
Yep, yep. Um, well, not regular potatoes. When I was a child, I loved sweet potatoes.
Yeah,
Um, and if you eat too many sweet potatoes, your skin will actually start to turn orange. It'll tinge orange, and I did have that happen to me when I was a child.
holy shit.
Yep.
You almost turned yourself into an Oompa Loompa? Like
Everything
you
but the
might have.
size. Yeah, everything but the size.
Yeah, that's crazy. I got another DM'd question. I don't know why this
Sure.
happens, but a lot of people for some reason will DM me questions and they'll say, "Hey, just don't mention me." And I get
Okay.
that Funny Junk users kind of want to like,
The anonymity.
yeah, because Funny Junk's kind of like a lesser known like
Right.
whatever.
Meme site.
Yeah, and a lot of people want it to stay that way, and I get that because they're kind of getting on me about like don't post it to YouTube because I don't want anyone to see this place. And I was like, okay, well, we'll see. But I got another DM question.
Okay.
And this one is, why is 5e your favorite system?
Ah, I know who that question is from. Um, it's not. I don't like 5e. Uh, it became too oversimplified. It is lacking mechanics. I have tried it. I've given a shot. Do not enjoy it.
You know who that
Oh
question's
yeah.
from?
Yep.
He
Uh, he. Yeah, I don't know.
so
He just refuses to accept that I don't enjoy the system.
that was Rascanza.
Yep.
You know, he
It's my partner in making monsters.
he him and I had a crazy conversation
Yeah.
in the DMs that just kept like being so fucking weird. So this guy messages me and he's like, "Yeah, ask him this question, but don't tell him who's gonna do it until after you ask it, right? Like not to announce his name until afterwards."
Right.
And I was like, "Oh, that's cool, blah blah blah." And we started talking, and he was like, "Yeah, no, everyone I know calls me Blue."
Yep.
And I was like, "What?" And the reason that that's so weird is because when I was running when I was running playtests for Salen, the system that I've been working on,
Hmm.
this guy with a skull icon, um, who went by Skullbones, joined one of the playtests, and he goes by Blue. And I was
Wow.
like, "Wait a minute, no fucking way! Are you the same guy?" And he's not. And I still talk to my Blue every day.
Hmm.
So Skullbones, if you're listening, you have a weirdly amalgamate twin.
Got a twin.
Like,
Convergent evolution.
yeah, it's real weird because dude has like a skull as the icon and goes by Blue. And
Yep.
I was like, holy shit. And then we're talking, and he's like, yeah, I also do voice acting. And I was like, what the fuck? That's one of the many things that I do.
Yeah.
So we've
Yeah.
been like,
He talks to us about it sometime during our sessions.
yeah. I find that like has served me really well in as far as tabletops go because I can develop voices for people.
Hmm.
And I also imitate certain voices sometimes.
Okay. Yeah.
And,
Yeah. I put on voices, but I'm by no means good at them.
oh no, you don't have to be good at them. We
Yeah.
respect that 100%. Um, but I somebody got a hold of me once when I was doing like table hopping.
Hmm.
Um, and they were like, "Hey, you should play this kid who's an NPC in our session, but he's copied off of this other kid." And I was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Like, and they gave me like the character beats for it, basically, like all of his motivations and backstory and stuff.
Right.
And I learned later that they listened to a podcast about a game, and that guy made this character, and then he incorporated it as an NPC, and he just assumed that I would be a good fit to play that character since I joined and he's already established and all that.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, okay, that's this is a weird setup. Um, but the kid is a barbarian who has negative in all of his stats because he's like 12 and like 100 pounds or whatever. And his name is Peyton.
Hmm.
So I end up having to play this character, and I got so fucking good at it that someone in my party was like, "You need to go talk to the guy who made Peyton and see if it's okay to do that." And I was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" I went down the rabbit hole, and I ended up asking the guy from the podcast who had made Peyton originally, and he messaged me back basically like, "Dude, it's a tabletop game with your friends. You can play whatever character you fucking want to. I don't care."
Yeah, exactly.
And I was like,
First,
"Hell yeah."
like they say, the first level any GM should have is in Rogue.
Yeah. Man. So you started with your dad, that's right?
Yes. Yep.
Does he still play, or you don't have to get
Uh,
into that?
yeah, not currently. He's not in any games, but he wants to be. Actually, for this past Father's Day, I got him the core rulebook for Blades in the Dark because he's been really into that system lately.
Nice.
So he's been reading up on that and he wants to get a game going of that. But
Is
yeah,
he I I never want to insult anybody, but like is he sort of like old school tabletop nerd or
um, no, because like so he worked at a college. And he's like, I mean, he is like he was a science teacher, like the chemistry, but he was also like the rowing coach.
uh
So yeah, and he's a pretty big guy. He and I are both like above 6 foot in height. So
right, fairly intimidating. Yeah.
but no, yeah. So he's in
Let's
like
see.
the scrawny classic geek or anything like that.
Yeah. Let me see. I had some more questions too.
Sure.
Um which I'll take this time. I think that I'm gonna do the next episode with um with Risconza and we're gonna bullshit for a little bit and see how that goes.
Nice.
Um, so, well, if Funny Junk didn't wasn't a fuck, go to my fucking thing, DMs. All right, this is a question. It's a dumb question, which they all
Okay.
tend to be.
Right.
Do you like pancakes?
Uh, I do. I'm split on because a classic is pancakes, waffles, or French toast, and I love them all. Um, if I want any like filling, if I want, because I really like blueberry pancakes. Um, and so I think those are the best transportation for that. But my mom makes waffles that she will put blueberries, sliced up strawberries, whipped cream, and syrup on, and those are the greatest thing ever. Um, and I just like French toast because of how fluffy it usually is when it's made well.
Yeah, man. Give me just a second.
Of course.
a coffee delivery.
Ah, gotcha.
I need some caffeine to wake up, which I'm not that far behind you. I think I'm only an hour behind,
Hmm.
but I stayed up until 4 and I took my kids to school at 6 and then I went to sleep again at like 7:30
Oh, wow.
after I took them. So I didn't get a lot of like consistent sleep.
Right.
So I'm leaning on caffeine to try and like stay awake.
Fair. I gotcha.
But the other problem I run into with players and tabletop in general is there are different like play styles,
Yeah.
and right now I'm DMing for a group that's like battling for their identity. Like there's a couple of people in the group who only really want to do combat and then only want to describe their actions like my player convinces them this, and then the other half really wants to like act it out.
Hmm.
So we're trying to establish like some form of like creating an identity for the group that they everything works consistently, you know?
Yeah. It's good to get a group that can do both. And like I can understand um like I enjoy making a character, I enjoy like role playing that character, but I don't always want to go in like the whole rigmarole of how I talk to somebody to get them because I'm playing characters way more charismatic than I am.
Yeah,
Um and so like I understand where the people who are like I want to describe what my character is trying to achieve with this deception, with this diplomacy, and I just want to roll for it and rely on my character's bonuses.
yeah,
Um, but no, I have been trying to get into actually like describing combat more. With the whole like the monster strikes out, its claws scraping against your ribs and stuff like that. Uh, and some of my players are actually getting into it as well, so that's nice. I got
yes,
one player who actually really gets into like describing the spells that he casts. They're his and he's and, you know he relates them to like stuff about his character. It's very cool.
yeah. We way back in the day when we were still had my AD&D group, we had a guy playing an alchemist who did not believe in magic. Um, he did not believe that the concept of magic was magic. He considered it a science,
Right.
and he was like, "No, it's all quantifiable. Look, I will." And some people would be like, "You are making a healing potion. Like as an alchemist, you made a healing potion. That's magically healing you." And he's like, "No, baby, that's a chemical reaction."
I Yeah, that or like I had it's always alchemists. I feel like I had an alchemist in a campaign who was like yeah, he's an atheist in a world where gods demonstrably exist.
Yeah, we we're doing what I call the Baron Adventure, which I wrote out like 5 years ago.
Hmm.
And a big premise of it is that God's destiny is to be killed and replaced by a mortal, like all gods. And so when our characters find that out, now they're like going down the path to find the title of these gods and take them over.
Oh, okay. A classic. Yeah, my buddy wants to run a similar sort of campaign. It sounds like a fun idea.
But they they're dealing with the fact, right? They're dealing with the idea or trying to circumvent the idea because they're almost to the point of like killing the first one and then having to take over.
Hmm.
Um, but now they're having to decide who is going to get that title and all the cool shit that comes with it. And someone in my party realized what was happening very quickly, like in that conversation, because they're like, "Hey, our next session we're probably going to be um, with the god we're going to kill and replace. We need to talk about who's getting all of that and everything." And then one of the players is like, "Wait a minute, the fate lady, the fate weaver that we talked about said that all God's fate is to be killed and replaced by mortals. If we take over, is that now our fate?" And that was like the last thing that they said before we ended the session.
Oh, that is a great end to a session.
Yeah. And they're still left with that little like footnote about like, so they're all kind of pondering if they do that, is that their fate? Like, which I haven't told them, like I haven't given them any answers, and they've been asking me sort of outside of game, like, is that going to happen to me if I take over the mantle? And I've like, I can't tell you that. I can't outside a game. I'm not going to tell you that. But I did generally state that that's the rule.
Makes sense.
But yeah, I mean that's so. You have been making monsters for how long?
Oh boy. Um, let's see. I was making stuff for myself for a long time, like, and mostly just like smaller creatures, just like generally altering creatures, so they could fit in with whatever I was running. Uh, but I think I really got into it. Uh, I'm just looking on Funny Junk here because that's like when I first started like posting this stuff. Um, yeah, the very first monster I posted on Funny Junk was the 21st of November, 2018. I did a conversion of the Visordrix from Magic into a Pathfinder monster.
Oh shit! And that's what kind of started the like making a monster.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I didn't do it consistently. Uh, like I would just whenever I had a monster, I would just post it. I didn't start doing it consistently until it looks like 2019, like mid 2019. The first Monster Monday was the Great Jagras from Monster Hunter World.
So do you post those every week, or do you announce like hiatuses and things?
Yeah, I usually do every week. Sometimes life gets too busy, especially around the holidays. I'll skip a week here or there, and I am actually currently on a hiatus from posting. Um, and I'm not like doing nothing during this hiatus. I'm trying to use this time to sort of maybe get a little bit ahead with like monsters. Um, as well as I'm working on. I've had people asking about like, hey, do you have like a collection of like all your monsters and stuff? And I've published two like PDFs that each have like 10 monsters, original monsters. Uh, but I wanted to do something for like all the Monster Hunter creatures I built. So I'm the Hunter's Handbook, and so it's got a sort of a rehashing of like the stat blocks of all the Monster Hunter monsters I built, as well as the monsters from similar games such as Dauntless. And I'm also including like extra pages that are like, oh, here's some feats or like class features you can learn from this monster. Here's some items you can make from its corpse and stuff. But yeah, I
Right.
will. I will occasionally. I do if I'm going on hiatus. I try to let people know. I did have to go on one rather suddenly when Wizard of the Coast pulled their whole bullshit.
Yeah.
And fortunately, like the week after I announced that, I was able to like post stuff again. It was safe to do so. Um, but yeah, I was if there's gonna be a break, I always try to announce it.
Yeah, something I wanted to also I just wanted to do because um I feel like it's just nice to do, or it makes more sense to do. Um, when I post this episode, and I'll post a link to it in Funny Junk. If you want to go ahead and drop that Monster Monday list, because I saw you drop that on one post and I joined that.
Yes,
Um,
I will remember. I should have posted it when I first saw you make the post about the interview, but I just completely forgot.
no, it's all right. I saw that you posted it, and if you guys want to join that, if especially because this is going to go on the Dungeons and Dragons channel,
Hmm.
if you guys are interested in regularly getting new monsters for your Pathfinder and 5e by Risconza, right?
Yep.
Join that Monster Monday list so that you get updates on all that. And you can check Ira's uh, profile too and see all the past monsters he's posted. I assume, right?
Yep. Yep. I don't think I've deleted any from there. The only ones I really delete are I'll post because I test monsters on Twitch. I stream that, and so like after I post a monster, I'll delete the streamed post just so it's not cluttering up the channel.
Sounds cool. Do you want me to drop like where you stream at too on this one?
Uh, sure if you'd like. Um, I had to look at my own Twitch. It's been a second. Uh, yeah, over on Twitch, I am ready to die TTRPG. I tried to just
Ready
take
to
ready to die, but apparently somebody else already had it.
damn it, those fucking millennials and they're wanting to die.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just naming it after ready to roll some dice. But yep, those damn suicidal bastards.
Yeah. I I comment like I'm old sometimes, but I'm only 27. Like
Yeah, you and I are around the same age then.
yeah, yeah. I'm 27 and the only reason I started with AD&D is because my stepdad or my ex-stepdad, that sounds wild to say, but me and him are still close, or me and him are still cool. Not as close as we were.
Hmm.
He had a bunch of friends who played it in the 80s and 90s, and they got together at a family reunion. And they're like, "Well, hey, you're kind of a nerd. Do you want to play D&D with us?" And I was like, "I don't know if I'm ready to make that step into nerddom."
Right.
But then the other option was to go like crawfish hunting, like kind of getting them out of that. And I was like, no, I'd rather do math. And
Yeah.
that's how that started. Um,
Sure.
but one thing that, and I don't know if this you've ever had this happen. Um, have you ever, like, as the leader of the adventure,
Hmm.
whatever you want to call that role, have you ever realized that as that you feel like the dad parent wrangling the monkeys, and then the second that someone else DMs, you transform into the absolute dumbest like version of yourself?
Uh, a little bit. So I will say, because most of the games I'm currently playing in, I am playing in Pathfinder Second Edition, and I know the games better than the GMs I'm playing with. And I'm not, saying this as a brag. They themselves like will turn to me to like for rules checks and stuff. Um, and so I still kind of feel, I guess, almost like the uncle in that situation. Uh,
Yeah.
but I do get very murder hobo-y impulses every now and then.
Yes, I so I had a friend who he had these rooms, right?
Hmm.
And of course he did a like how you get in is a tutorial for how this works. Um, but basically every wall had these holes in them that were shapes, and the blocks that matched that shape was a weight basically, and you had to have a specific amount of weight put into the various holes um, to undo the trap that was in the room so that you could go to the next room. So the way that he worked it out was like the stone triangles were 3 pounds, the stone cubes were, 4 pounds, like stars would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pounds, and different shapes, right?
Okay,
But the
yeah.
way that he kept count of how much they all weigh was by how many points it had, like the point of his base shape.
Oh, okay.
Um, and to open the door, you had to have the exact amount of weight um, that you're supposed to have that's written on the door. And we had done 3 rooms that was really easy, basically. Like the first one said 4, and it just had a cube in the room, and then a whole bunch of other stone shapes. And we were like,
Sort of
well,
like
there's a square
teaching you.
hole, so
Yeah.
huh?
Just teaching you like sort of the basics how it works and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And then the next one would be 8, and there'd still just be one square cut out in the wall with a whole bunch of stone shapes underneath it. And we'd be like, oh, there are 2 cubes that go in that square hole. Later on, because he did that in one session, and then the next session, towards the end of the session, we got in a room with a number on it and a whole bunch of shapes. And my brain just completely, like, I don't know what happened, why it shut off the way it did. I was like, this isn't, there's no way. Numbers adding up to shapes. And then my whole party, all 4 of us, like college educated adults, were like, he did something about this last week. What the fuck is it? And we were just like, and he's like, it's literally just a number. And if you count the points of each shape, it does add up. You don't have to figure out that it's a weight. Like, it has a safety just in case your party's stupid.
Yeah, traps or puzzles are always dangerous.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I tend not to use a lot in my games, just in part because I don't want to spend the time thinking up a puzzle that's going to be a challenge, but is also not going to be obnoxious. Because it is a very fine line.
Oh, no, yeah.
But I did play in a session recently, uh, in a Pathfinder 2e session where we went through some puzzles, and I thought they were very well done.
Yeah.
So shout out to that GM if he ever listens to this.
Yeah, yeah. I set up a quote unquote puzzle once that there was this door that was magically sealed, but it had um it said something transcribed on it.
Hmm.
And this is one of the 2 puzzles that I've reused a lot. It was like um to gain access you must command me is part of the transcription.
Okay.
And the party member would not, none of them would touch the door or even approach it. They're like, we just can't. Like that, there's no way to open it. We're none of us own this house. We are not the master of this house because they figured that like you have to be the master of the house and then you own the
Oh
thing to
no.
command it. And I was like, oh no, they've they've looked too hard.
Oh no. It was literally probably just like you tell it to open, huh?
Yeah, if you tell it to
Yep.
open, it opens. And like they debated about it for over an hour. And as the DM, I'm standing here like white knuckled, gripping my pants under the table, stressed.
Wow.
And then they passed that door. It took an hour and a half, right?
Hmm.
And not further into the dungeon, there's another inscription that they find that because it's a ledge, like to get to the other side is a gigantic jump of like over 100 yards, like over 300 feet.
Okay.
So you can't really jump it, but there's an inscription that says that there is a bridge there if you are willing to lighten the weight of your souls. And I was like, they're gonna take all fucking day on this. Or no, it was remove the weight on your souls.
Hmm.
And they looked at it for maybe 1 second and they were like, it says souls. That wouldn't make any sense if one person read it. They must be talking about your shoes. Everyone take your shoes off and try to walk across. And that was how you solve the puzzle,
Hmm.
is to take the weight off of your souls.
Right.
And I was just like, I was expecting this to take the rest of the evening, but you literally glanced at it, was like, that's easy.
Yeah. No.
But
The probably one of the closest things to a puzzle I've done like lately is I literally I mean it really only works for low level parties, but you just put a like broken bridge and a swiftly moving stream, and they'll take time to like get like their and it actually helped because they had a cart they also had to get across. And so they had to like figure out, all right, how are we gonna get everybody across? How are we gonna get the cart across? All this other stuff. And I've done it to a couple parties now. It's interesting to see like almost the differences that happen and stuff like that. Just a simple downed bridge over a swiftly moving river.
oh yeah, that'll fuck people up.
Yep. Now you got to make sure it's a wide enough gap that they can't just jump over it. But do that, you're pretty good.
Yeah, we
Or they can't jump over it easily, I guess.
I've also had this problem, and Blue had this problem last game that he DM'd that I was in.
Hmm.
We he sent us up against skeletons, and we were like level fives, which is it was very easy. Should have been,
Yeah.
but the three of us rolling, we couldn't get above like a two. Like we just couldn't fucking make anything work for us. And these group of like three skeletons were kicking our fucking ass. And I was like, this game's too hard. I can't. I'm getting my ass beat by skeletons. And all three of us are just laughing about, because we're, aware enough that this should not be the case. But I mean, it is what it is. And then whenever we got to the BBEG, it was like uh crits everywhere,
Right.
which
That's how it always works. Um,
yeah,
yeah, normally like when I do a monster test, it's about maybe like an hour for the test because we do like sort of go through, we explain what's happening, we try to cover like the monster's abilities, and then we'll usually like do a half an hour discussion on like the monster's design and stuff like that. Um, I had a monster the other month that took us like 2 hours to test because they could not roll above an 8 to save their lives. It was just a, a slog. You know how like if you cast a minute long buff in a game, you're like, all right, this will last me till the end of combat or for the entire combat. We had minute long buffs end during the combat because it went on for like 12 rounds or something.
fuck off.
Yeah, no, they just could not roll to like hit the creature. They consistently rolled like an 8 or lower on the die.
Good Lord. I Have you heard of, at least this is one of the things that irritates me about 5e, and I have other qualms, but this is the one that irritates me, is that they have done no study, no looking into like group turns
Hmm.
for like wars and things.
Oh, okay.
So large groups take a turn as one object, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you have 100 people, right,
Yeah.
standing shoulder width apart, or if you're standing like with their arms out, like T-posing, and they all take their turn to pass a pebble to the next person, by the time the last person throws it, because of how fast it goes, like at, it's 6 seconds, it's just one 6 second turn,
Mm-hmm.
but it's going literally hundreds of feet per second. At the end, it basically does the damage of like a meteor,
Yeah.
because their solution to the, like, there's a large group of enemies, was like, oh, they all get one turn that takes place in the same 6 seconds.
Yep.
And I was like, that
Um,
doesn't.
in Pathfinder, for a large group of enemies, they use troops, which are essentially swarms, but they're of like small size or larger creatures, and they can actually like deform. They don't have to like stay in a square. They just have to be contiguous with each other.
Yeah.
So that's a neat idea for it.
So, did you have anything else that you wanted to say before we called this one?
No, I'm good. It was a good chat.
Yeah, it was good. Like I said, I'm a huge tabletop nerd, and I imagine that we're gonna either cross. I'm an idiot and can't speak. Cross paths again, or if we can just chat from time to time. That's,
Yeah, certainly.
possibility.
I'm always down to talk shop.
Yeah, I did not know that you stream though.
Yeah, it's not super often. I am going to try to get a campaign started up, and I'm going to be try to stream that regularly. But yeah, it's mostly just my monster test that I stream.
Nice, nice. But yeah, if we I'll go ahead and roll us out then, and we'll end it from there.
All right, sounds good.
All right, guys. This has been me, Vash, and this has been Iragula Superbia, if I can say his name properly this time.
Nailed it.
We had fun just chatting about tabletops and stuff. And it's interesting that we both kind of brought into it via our dad, like, because my stepdad was the one who was like, "Yeah, you're a math cruncher. Let's try and do that." And then I've been on it since I was 12.
Yeah, my
Um,
dad my dad brought me in because we would in car rides we would tell like stories. Um, like we would just do sort of like round robin, like telling fantasy stories. As like you seem to enjoy this, so let's see if you enjoy adding some math to it.
do you have a pretty good relationship with your dad still?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a. Despite, the divorce from my mom, me and my stepdad are still close, way closer than me and my mom ever were.
Hmm.
So if you're watching, and you, since I assume this is going to be funny junk mostly, if you're a male and watching this, remember to play tabletops with your kids. It's a
Makes a good
good,
connection with them. Yeah.
it does, a good one, and a kind of stupid one, because as a player, you lose brain cells. And
Very
as a
true.
DM, you get to know what it's like to be a parent to toddlers.
Your players make you lose brain cells.
Yeah, regardless. Alrighty, you guys take it easy.